Hello classic rock fans, I am here to do another unboxing. Today I am going to be unboxing the Rolling Stones' new album, Hackney Diamonds. This is their first album of original material since 2005's A Bigger Bang. They released Blue and Lonesome, which was a covers record, in 2016. I guess they've been working on Hackney Diamonds for actually a number of years, but it's here now. It's the first full-length Rolling Stones album of original material in almost 20 years, so I'm very excited for this. I've liked the stuff that the Rolling Stones have put out in the years since A Bigger Bang. A couple of tracks off of Grr, their 50th anniversary compilation box set, and they put out a song in 2020. So they've been active all this time, but what's been missing has been a new album of original material, and it's finally here. So let's open this up and see what it looks like, and then after I show you the packaging, I'll give the record a full listen and share a short review with you. Okay, so I got my Rambo knife that I exclusively use for opening mail, and nothing else, it's just mail. Let's cut through this tape here. Here it is, Hackney Diamonds, or more specifically, the MLB Milwaukee Brewers edition of Hackney Diamonds. So one of the cool things that the Stones are doing with this release is that they've, I guess, partnered with Major League Baseball, and they've released a tie-in cover for every baseball team. So, I live in Milwaukee. They've got a Milwaukee Brewers themed cover right here. Take a look. So I thought, hey, it's Milwaukee centric. I will absolutely get this special edition of the record. And the reason behind this baseball tie-in is that, the Stones play baseball stadiums. They have not played Miller Park, or should I say American Family Insurance Field, or whatever, AmFam Field. They've not played that baseball stadium before, but back in the 70s, they played the old county stadium here in Milwaukee, and that's where the Brewers played before what became Miller Park was built. Once again, here's that cover for the Brewers baseball-themed record. And then looking on the back, here's the track list, and check out in the corner right here, made in Czech Republic. Let's get the album open and see what they have for liner notes. Okay, unlike my past unboxings, this isn't a really elaborate box set, so there's actually not a whole lot to show. But we can start with this. Hey, look at this for an inner sleeve. Oh, that looks great. Yeah, that's fantastic. I always love the different ways that the Stones find to incorporate the tongue logo into different themes and stuff. So here's the baseball version of that. And on the back we got the track listing, the credits, special thanks. We got all the features. There's some big name features on this album. There's Elton John, there's Stevie Wonder, Lady Gaga. Their original bassist, Bill Wyman, is back for this record. I guess that was because of a recommendation from drummer Charlie Watts, who passed away a few years ago now. And I think that's cool, because I do like when, bands get back together with original members, for special occasions like this. But at the same time, that means their longtime bassist, Daryl Jones, is not on this record. And that sucks, because I think he's a damn good bass player and definitely a big part of the band's history, too. Oh, and here it is. Dedicated with love to Charlie Watts. Right here at the bottom corner. Beautiful. Glad they included that. If you want to pause and focus in on whatever here is on the liner notes. Not really too much else to say about the packaging. It's the special edition cover with the baseball logo, very cool interior sleeve. Before I put it on though, I have heard a little bit of this record. I've heard the lead-off single, Angry. I think it's really good. I think it's one of the best Rolling Stones songs of the past 30 years for sure. I think it holds up with pretty much what they were doing, from the late 80s onward. And, a lot of fans will tell you, like, none of that stuff's any good. I strongly disagree with that. I think the Rolling Stones stayed fairly good through their whole run. Of course, I love their classic stuff from the 60s and early 70s. But I also really like the later 70s and early 80s. One of my favorite records of theirs is Steel Wheels from 1989. I think they did some good work in the 90s. You Got Me Rockin' is one of their best songs ever. That's from the mid-90s. And, Rough Justice off of A Bigger Bang, or Doom and Gloom from the Gurr compilation. These are cool songs. I think the Stones have managed to put out high-quality material through their whole run. But, the problem with, some fans is that they get kind of stuck in, on maybe peak eras or what was, best for them at the time. And, they kind of close their ears off to newer material. And if that's your perspective, fair enough, but I think you're just missing out. What is the appeal of limiting yourself to such a small window of such a huge discography? I have not actually heard the Lady Gaga collaboration they did, Sweet Sounds of Heaven, although I've heard from some friends that it is really good. I'm looking forward to listening to that. I didn't want to listen to too much of this before I got the record because I really wanted to have a first listen experience. I couldn't help myself with Angry, but I've held off on Sweet Sounds of Heaven and anything else that might have been released. So I could kind of absorb this as an album. I do see on here, the last song of the record I should highlight is Rolling Stone Blues. And that is the Muddy Waters track that inspired the name for the band. It was the record that Mick and Keith, when they were young kids, bonded over. So the story goes is that back when they were kids, Keith saw Mick carrying a copy of a Muddy Waters album, and he recognized the record and struck up a conversation, and they bonded over it. I think it was the best of Muddy Waters, and that's where that friendship began, and that's the birth, that's the genesis, the starting point of the Rolling Stones way back in the early 60s. And here we are in 2023 with another Rolling Stones album. This very well could be their last album. I really would not expect them to put out another one. I guess they have some material left over from this, but I don't know if that means it needs to be a proper album release. Maybe they'll do an expanded version of this later down the line, but I would suspect that there's a good chance that this is the last ever Rolling Stones album. And if that's the case, and Rolling Stone Blues is the final song on the record, that's almost too perfect. I mean, really, it's kind of amazing that they never put that song on a record before, but here at the very end, that's very poetic. It's a very sort of closing the circle of their long, legendary career. So I get a kick out of stuff like that, but let's take a quick look at the disc, and then we will put it on. Look at that. That's side A. Here is side B. The problem with a white disc is it's actually harder to tell if there's any dirt on it as opposed to a black disc. But unlike most of the new vinyl I've bought, this appears at least to be pretty clean, so I'm happy about that. So, alright, yeah, let's put this on, let's give it a listen, and then I'll tell you what I think.
Voices keep echoing, calling out my name. Hear the rain keep beating, all over the pain.
Okay, so I just gave the album a listen, and here's kind of a short review of my first pass on the record. I'm sure my opinions will change over time, but these are just my initial thoughts. The first track, the lead-off single, Angry, I really like. I'm a sucker for lead-off singles, especially from late-era classic rock artists. So I really like this. I think it holds up with, tracks like Start Me Up, Rockin' a Hard Place, You Got Me Rockin', Doom and Gloom, some of these other, singles that the band released in the later years of their discography. It's fun. It's the one track on the album you can really kind of, do the Mick Jagger rooster dance to. You definitely one you can sing along to when you're in the car. It's very lively. It's classic Stones. So that one is definitely one of my favorites off the record. There's another rocker on side A called Bite My Head Off. Features Paul McCartney on bass. There's a great point near the end of the song where Mick, gives Paul a shout out, and that was probably done on the fly, and that's fun to hear. And that's a cool moment, but my second favorite rocker on side A is not that one. It's actually the one following it, Whole Wide World. That one I think is probably the second best rock track after Angry. I like that one. But my favorite song on the whole album is more of a laid-back, low-key number. It's the last song on side A. It's called Dreamy Skies. That is a song that makes me want to sit out by a campfire and relax. It's one of those songs that's about getting away from it all. I enjoy that sentiment, and I think the music on that one is really good. So a very strong, powerful opening on side A, and a very nice, relaxing close to side A. And now when you flip it over, the first two songs on side B feature Charlie Watts on drums. So I guess he laid down the drum tracks for these songs before he passed away, and that's great. I'm glad that there is some Charlie still on this record. Unfortunately, these are the two songs on the album that I probably will listen to the least. They're not bad tracks at all. I'm sure my opinion will change over time, but just on this first run listen, there were just other songs that stood out to me a little bit more. And the two I'm referencing are called Mess It Up and Live by the Sword. Now my favorite song on side B is also more of a laid-back number. It's called Driving Me Too Hard. I like mixed vocals on it. I think it's one of their more emotional tracks, and yeah, I think it works. After that track is another one called Tell Me Straight. That is the token Keith on lead vocals Rolling Stones song for this album, and I think that's fine. I tend to like Keith vocal tracks as long as it's kept to about one or two per album. So just one for Keith on this one, and that works just fine. After that is another one of the singles. It is Sweet Sound of Heaven. That's the one that Lady Gaga appears on. She does some backing vocals. It's almost a duet with Mick, and that I would describe as the big epic number of the album. There's a lot of back and forth singing between Mick and Lady Gaga near the back end of the track, and yeah, it's really enjoyable. That one is getting some really positive reviews online. It's definitely a standout track. I'm really happy that Lady Gaga is really the only other vocal appearance on the album besides, obviously, Mick and Keith. She has some real cross-generational appeal. If they were going to feature an artist from sort of that later generation, I think Lady Gaga is very appropriate. Also, she's just one of the great singers, so very cool to hear her. And then, of course, the album closes with their cover with Rolling Stone Blues, which is the old Muddy Waters track that they took the band name from, and was one of the songs that Mick and Keith bonded over when they first met each other all the way back in the day. As far as the song goes, it's an old blues track. I guess it's nice to hear Mick and Keith play a very stripped down version. Keith on guitar, Mick singing and playing a little harmonica. That's nice, but if I'm being perfectly honest, that's not one I'm going to listen to very often, just because I'm not really the biggest blues guy. But I think it's very cool and very appropriate that it's here on this album, specifically in the final slot for the record. So, yeah, all in all, I think it's a really strong record. I'm glad the Stones are back. I'm glad I got a copy on vinyl. I enjoyed listening to it on my record player. Obviously, I like the packaging it comes in. So, definitely very cool to have Rolling Stones, fresh, new Rolling Stones music
in 2023. It very well could be the last time, at least as far as an official album goes. I do think that more music from these sessions will eventually be released. I don't know if that'll look like another record or, like I suggested earlier, like an expanded edition later down the road, but they have more songs recorded, so it's just a matter of how they decide to release it. So that's all I got for the Rolling Stones' Hackney Diamonds. I think it's absolutely worth getting a copy of, especially if you enjoy collecting vinyl, and if you live in a city with a baseball team, even if you're not a big baseball fan. Yes, if you can still get these, get one of these cool MLB themed records. You know, the Rolling Stones are one of the few classic rock bands that still have the pull to do these kind of promotional releases, and that's fun. You know, you know, years down the line you'll be able to find, you know, the stock Hackney Diamonds cover release at a record store, but these will eventually be hard to find. So again, if you live in a city with a baseball team, treat yourself. Get one of these with the MLB covers. They're fun. Otherwise, if you enjoyed this unboxing and review, please check out the other unboxings I've done on this channel if you're a classic rock fan. I think I've probably talked about another artist you're a fan of. We did a review of a Eric Clapton box set release not too long ago. And if you're a fan of classic rock at all, please check out some of the other stuff I've done on this channel, like the podcast I do. It's all about classic rock. We've had a lot of fantastic guests on recently, and we have some more great stuff coming down the line. And I also do concert reviews. If you're a classic rock fan, I guarantee I've talked about an artist you love in the concert reviews. So yeah, please subscribe. Please post a comment if you have this record. Tell me what you think of the album. But otherwise, thank you very much for watching, and keep rocking.
Don't get